Welcome, tender hearts who crave what hides behind the polished smile and practiced pose. Welcome to the pulse of real feeling, here on Secrets Behind the Stars. We grow used to imagining our idols as flawless silhouettes, faces lit by spotlights, voices guided by lines on a teleprompter. But what happens when the cues vanish and the person beneath the persona steps into view? What happens when unfiltered memory and the ache of a private past crash a live broadcast and scatter every defense? Today we revisit a moment that etched itself into the memory of television and into the whispering corridors of gossip. At the center stands Cenk Torun, famed for his calm, for the measured elegance with which he navigates interviews. And yet, the instant he heard the name Mahassine Merabet, the world learned that behind the composed mask lived a heart still marked by a story it never fully shelved. Before we enter this fragile chapter, do one small thing to feel part of our family. Subscribe, tap the bell so you never miss the next pulse of this saga, and if you stand with raw, honest emotion, press the join button with conviction. Your presence keeps our voice steady. It began without fireworks, almost boring in its routine simplicity. A live program taken at an easy pace, laughter from the crew at inside jokes, that loose vibe that usually wraps the final stretch of a long day. Seated with the poise that made him a reference point for younger actors, Cenk Torun fielded questions with precise self-control, sculpting each answer as if he were trimming an elegant suit. The studio hummed softly. No one in that room, and no one watching from a couch at home, could guess how quickly an ordinary interview would blossom into something raw, unguarded, and unforgettable. Then fate arrived disguised as a viewer's comment scrolling up the live chat. The host read it aloud, perhaps naively, perhaps in search of a viral spark. Cenk, if you could choose again, would you choose Mahassine Merabet? Every breath in the studio tightened at once. This wasn't simple awkwardness. It was the hush of a door creaking open to a place few dare go on camera. Cenk Torun did not answer. 1 second passed. Then 2, then 3, stretching into an eternity by television standards. His eyes dropped to a spot no one else could see, as if he were collecting shards from a puzzle scattered on the floor of his memory. He rubbed his face slowly, an old gesture that belongs to tired souls, and when he looked up, his gaze was wet and shimmering. When he finally spoke, his voice wavered, and what he said detonated like a truth too heavy to hide. There are names that do not fade. There are names that move impermanently, and hers is carved into mine. Dear friends of Secrets Behind the Stars, breathe with me for a second. Who among you carries a name that stings whenever it's spoken aloud? Who feels the weight of what Cenk Torun allowed us to see? Tell us. We read you. And if you believe that spaces for shared feeling should be protected and kept alive, remember that the join button is your way of saying keep going, we're here. The digital world broke into a sprint. Clips from that moment multiplied in every corner of the internet, copied, downloaded, replayed, slowed down. Within minutes, a single phrase connected to that exchange rose into global conversation, racing past the usual trends. People wrote that the unshakable gentleman had finally allowed a soft crack to show, that the man who cloaks himself in discretion had placed his heart in the center of the table for all to witness. One user wrote that they never expected him to let the dam burst on live TV. Another said that his eyes carried more meaning than words, that you could see in the tremble of his mouth a love still warm, still alive, still aching. Back in the studio, the mood had changed color. The host, visibly rattled and likely regretting the decision to read the question, tried to steer towards something lighter, the safe banter that pushes away a storm. But with a small lift of his hand, dignified and gentle, Cenk Torun declined the escape. It's all right, he said, brushing away a tear with the side of his finger. He confessed that sometimes you cloak truths in silence out of respect, out of maturity, out of the wish to keep private what was once sacred. And yet, there are days when the heart speaks louder than the mind, when lessons gathered from years of life are suddenly illuminated by one lesson deeper than all the rest, one lesson named Mahassine Merabet. Speculation arrived like a high tide. Commenters wrote that you do not weep that way for someone you filed away in a drawer. That kind of grief is a lover's grief, a sting only the present tense can cause. In remembering how the story began, even skeptics softened. It is worth recalling that Cenk Torun and Mahassine Merabet shared not only time and headlines but an extraordinary artistic path, weaving their presence through a production that reached hearts far beyond borders. Side by side, their chemistry felt like electricity under velvet. They never confirmed their relationship with a formal release, and yet 1,000 little moments. Stolen glances between scenes, laughter caught between takes, the instinctive small acts of care that leak when nobody is performing, told a fuller truth than any sober announcement could have captured. As courage breeds courage, another viewer in the live chat asked the question many had silently carried: if Mahassine Merabet were sitting across from him at that very moment, what would he say? Cenk Torun took a long breath that trembled on the way in. He locked eyes with the camera like it was a window that knew her face. He said he would say thank you. Thank you for laughter poured into days when nothing seemed funny. Thank you for patience, for listening to the quiet when noise would have been easier. Thank you for a space in which he could strip the masks and be only himself. And then he added a sentence that bent the room. If he had ever caused a bruise, he needed her to know he was sorry for it, not casually sorry, not sorry out of politeness, but sorry from the deepest chamber of his heart. Every corner of the fandom went silent for a beat and then filled with messages that read like tears. Even media outlets that rarely commend vulnerability called it one of the most heartfelt confessions of the year. Then the camera lights cooled. The broadcast ended. Without a word to the crowd that had gathered in the hall, Cenk Torun left quietly, face set in a line that said no more today. Paparazzi hovered like crows near a field at dusk, but the headphones slipped over his ears sent the clearest signal: he had given all he could give. Hours later, deep in the night when most of the city slept, a quiet image appeared on his social feed, a brittle leaf released from a branch landing on the surface of a still pool, rings widening from the touch. Below it, a line of text: some seasons revisit us, and others remain as they are, living only in the mind. No names, no tags, no need. Those who have watched him for years felt the meaning without being told. Then the interpretive chorus began. Some said the falling leaf was Mahassine Merabet, fragile and beautiful, carried by a wind that neither could control. Others thought the leaf was their story, intact yet no longer attached, drifting toward a place where memory must carry what presence no longer can. Optimists argued that you do not post something like that unless you're ready to walk toward the person who inspired it. Realists countered that the image was a farewell, a gentle bow before the curtain finally drops. The only unassailable truth was how naked he let himself be. For a man so careful about boundaries, this was unprecedented candor. Inevitably the ripples reached her. Comments flooded the posts of Mahassine Merabet in a relentless stream, some tender, some impatient, all curious. Did you see what he said? Do you still feel what he clearly does? If fate brought you together once, could grace do it again? She did not answer directly, she never has. Her hallmark has always been an elegant restraint that makes every word she does choose feel deliberate. And yet, the next day, as if laying a message at the door of the wind, she posted a story that contained only a single sentence: the soul's truths have no need for shouting. What did that line mean? The internet split in a heartbeat. One half heard a whisper of yes, the suggestion that love can exist without spectacle, tucked safely where cameras can't reach. The other half recognized a goodbye, the most gracious kind, the kind that blesses what was without promising what cannot be. Clear or not, it felt like Mahassine Merabet met the moment without violating her own boundaries, and that alone earned respect. Of course, stories like theirs do not exist in a vacuum. A colleague from a set they once shared stepped forward to describe what many suspected: that Cenk Torun and Mahassine Merabet were in tune in a way you rarely witness, that a glance could carry a paragraph for them, that a touch on a shoulder could edit an entire conversation. He swore that what he saw behind the camera would never leave him, and with that statement, the embers glowed hotter. Would this emotional unmasking crack a door open, or would it be remembered only as an echo in a room now empty? Then came the twist, the kind of rumor that sets timelines ablaze. A local network leaked that it was exploring a reunion interview, a chance to sit the two of them at the same table, to talk openly about craft, about how making art together leaves fingerprints on the heart, about what it cost and what it yielded. Managers remained quiet, neither denying nor blessing the idea. That silence only fed the frenzy. What if life offered them a second scene, but this time unscripted? We often say that art steals from life, and life, every so often, steals back. In their case, fictional characters seem to have wandered into reality, leaving the shapes of their dialogue on the reactions of two people who have always guarded their interiors. For now, the public waits with patience and a little fear. Every new post, every line beneath a photo, every tiny detail feels like it could be a clue. In a world starved for sincerity, watching someone like Cenk Torun lay down his armor felt like medicine. Even without guarantees, even without promises, the thread connecting him to Mahassine Merabet still hums with a force that will not quiet easily. And here we are, at the end of this fierce, glowing chapter on secrets behind the stars. Their story reminds us that real love is stubborn about time, that tears step in when language fails, that goodbyes can coexist with gratitude, that hope can hold hands with caution. We will keep watch over this, guardians of the delicate, ready to tell you if gratitude becomes welcome back, if silence becomes a sentence, if distance becomes a path. Do you believe in second chances? Should Mahassine Merabet answer this open wound with her own words? Tell us in the comments. Your voice shapes the beating heart of this channel. If our way of touching this story moved you, leave a like and share this video with those who keep secrets between their ribs. And if you want to be the pillars that hold up this home of feeling, press the join button now. Your support doesn't just help, we become stronger because you are here. Thank you for walking through this storm of tenderness with us. See you in the next video, always here, where gossip remembers it has a soul, and where the quiet truth behind the glitter finds a place to breathe.